it comes to Puebla, it is difficult to decide where to start. Well, let's start from the very beginning. From the very first convent in one of the oldest area of Puebla. Right here, located on Boulevards Cinco de Mayo and Avenida 14 Oriente, is the Temple of San Francisco, the first convent that was established in Puebla. It was founded on April 16, 1531. The Franciscan friar Toribio de Benavente, known by the natives as Motolinia, a word of Nahuatl origin that means poor or afflicted, is the one who officiates the first Mass, so this day is considered as the date of its foundation. Its construction concluded in 1585. However, its original appearance has been modified repeatedly due to the various artistic and architectural reforms that it has seen through its history. During the 18th century, the remodeling of the facade with quarry, red brick, and tile took place, with a design similar to that of the wooden altar pieces inside the churches. As part of its long history, there is a rather obscure event from my point of view. If you want to know what it is, leave a comment, but I warn you that it is quite dark. Beyond its history, there is the beauty of this architectural piece called the Fountain of the Lions, or also known as the Tile Fountain, and it is located on the old promenade of San Francisco, right across the street from where the Temple of San Francisco is located. There are some exceptional spots to rest and enjoy a pleasant time in this majestic city. In its surroundings, you will find a great variety of places to delight your senses, with the best and most traditional dishes of the area, including the typical food market El Alto, just one street away to the east. And it is also very well supplied by mariachis, so you can enjoy an authentic delicacy with all the Mexican style. Highly recommended. Puebla's main theater is the oldest in Mexico. It was initially inaugurated in 1761. After having been damaged by a fire in 1902, it was remodeled and reopened in 1940 and again in 1960. Theater, opera, dances, festivals, conferences, shows for children, and even government events are held here. In 1940, the brothers José and Ángel Márquez Figueroa, teachers of the Old Academy of Fine Arts, arrived at Parian with a group of students to teach their painting class that used to take place outdoors. In that old environment, less than adequate for an artist, and began their teaching activity. Not many hours later, within the busy environment of the line, brush, and use of nuances and extraordinary tones, teacher José Márquez interrupts the class and says to his students, "Young people, you are about to leave the academy. You are artists now. Wouldn't you like to have a place, such a studio workshop, to gather together, develop, and eventually become a nucleus of artists that represent our city?" They all answered, "Yes, of course, sir. But where is this place?" The teacher replied, "Right here, right in front of you." The old square of San Roque was built in 1801, adorned in a very poblano style, with brick and talavera tiles. It is considered the first artisan market in the city, and since 1961, it occupies the facilities of what was the old market called El Parián. It currently has a total of 112 stores, in which the most varied collection of handicrafts originating from the different regions of the state can be found. It is located a few streets from El Zócalo of the city and is considered one of the most popular tourist destinations in Puebla. It is open from Monday to Sunday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Another one of the attractions of the Parián are the cartoonists who, through a photo or in person and at the moment, create a pencil cartoon drawing. It has been named Casa de Alfeñiques since 1790 due to its decorated facade that looks like alfeñiques candy. On May 5, 1926, it became the first museum in Puebla, the Regional State Museum. The Guardian Angel is a monumental sculpture by Sebastián. It was inaugurated on November 7, 2003. The sculpture is 17 meters high and is made of iron. There was a man so wealthy that he had his own bridge built to cross the San Francisco River and connect his house with the rest of the city. Mr. Ovando had 2 children. When his daughter was 16 years old, she got involved in a love relationship that would exceed social standards. She fell in love with a young middle-class poblano, and her father, unsurprisingly, threatened to disown her. "But I love him," said the beautiful girl. "What does love have to do with marriage?" replied the enraged patriarch. "I'd rather be dead than see you beg on a bridge." The young woman cried her soul away for the love she felt for the young poblano and thought about a solution. She concluded that giving herself to her beloved one would be the solution. She figured her father would have no choice but to accept the union to escape disgrace. The young couple took advantage of a day of the patriarch's absence to carry out their plan. However, the young brother of the girl, knowing what had happened, took up his pistol and shot the man who had dishonored his family. But inadvertently, his sister intervened and received in her chest the bullet that would tear the very life out of her. After what happened, the father fell into a pit of drunkenness, and one night, when it was raining heavily, while the patriarch was crossing the bridge, right at the entrance, he saw a woman who told him, "Sir, give me a coin." The man replied, "What hours are these to beg at the entrance of my bridge?" Then, in a terrifying voice, the woman said to him, "Don't you recognize me, father? I ask for alms, and I will ask for it from all your descendants until the end. Because at the hands of my own family, I have been killed." "Who are you?" said the man. "Are you an evil being?" "Look at me. I'm your daughter," replied the woman. Horrified at the scene, Ovando tried to escape, denying himself over and over what he had just seen. But an inexplicable flood of the river caught him, and his body was dragged by the unforgiving current. His lifeless body was found several days later. Many years later, it was still told among the locals that this same silhouette walked by the Ovando Bridge at midnight, and if one gave alms, it could pass freely. But if not, the same end of the patriarch would await for that person. After the Spanish conquest, in the first part of the 16th century, the city of Puebla de Los Angeles was founded in a valley called Cuetlaxcoapan, which is located 120 kilometers southeast of Mexico City, surrounded by the volcanoes Popocatépetl, The city was founded with the idea of being a suitable place for Spanish immigrants. Later, it became the second most important city of New Spain, thanks to the fact that it became a large productive space. In 1531, the first stone of the cathedral was placed in lands known as the Portal de Borja, whose construction began on August 29, 1536, and was completed in 1649. Puebla Cathedral is the most representative monument of this city. In 1640, when Bishop Juan de Palafox y Mendoza arrived in the city, he found that the construction work had been stopped. So he decided to resume the works that had advanced very slowly, to the extent that in those years not even the walls were finished. So then Bishop Palafox consecrated the Puebla Cathedral with a Mass on April 18, 1649, without having completed the facades and towers. The construction of the famous towers of this cathedral took almost 2 centuries. The North Tower was started at the beginning of the 17th century, was completed in 1678, and the South Tower was completed 90 years later, in 1768. These towers are the tallest of the Latin American cathedrals, at more than 70 meters high, or over 210 feet. The cathedral is considered one of the most important museums of New Spain art, and also for the treasures it houses. Over the centuries, it has been enriched in paintings, sculptures, goldsmithing, and carpentry of great artistic quality, as well as its decorations, the large paneling doors, gates, and the treasures of the sacristy that protect the rich priestly ornaments embroidered with thread of gold and silver, sacred vessels, chalices, ciboriums, reliquaries, and crosses encrusted in gold with jewels and diamonds. Its historical archive has documents dating from the founding of the city, and many are yet to be classified. The pressing and basic needs of the city originate the installation of mills and fueling mills of the banks of the Atoyac and Alsuseca rivers. In addition, the field works arise and the city becomes the most important agricultural, industrial, and commercial center of the New Spain. During the colonial period, textile production was the most important productive activity in the development of the viceregal economy, both due to its role in regional trade and the number of personnel it employed. However, the continuous wars between the Royal Spanish Crown, England, and France prevent the timely supply of textiles, which is exercised by the Spanish monopoly, which generates a brief boom period for local textile production. Under these conditions, during the last decades of the colonial era, the city became one of the main producers of cotton textiles, which regularly supplies the colonial market in New Spain. In the House of Culture is the Palafoxiana Library. On September 5, 1646, Bishop Palafox y Mendoza donated his personal library, consisting of 5,000 volumes, to the seminarians of the Tridentine schools, ordering that it be made available to anyone who wanted to read or study, for which is considered the first public library in the American continent. From then on, it settled in the now Colegio de San Juan, in the heart of the city of Puebla. Named in 1981, historic monument of Mexico for its beautiful emblem of the New Spain Baroque, and in 2005, included by UNESCO as part of the Memory of the World program for its ancient background bibliographic heritage. The Palafoxiana Library is today a book museum and continues its work as a universal library. In addition, it has a playroom to disseminate the library arts among children. In 1773, the then Bishop of Puebla, Francisco Fabián y Fuero, established the 43-meter-long main navel of the Palafoxiana Library so that the population could have access to Bishop Palafox's collection, as well as their own. And he built 2 floors of fine shelving of ayacahuite, coloyote, and cedar. The collection grew thanks to the donations of the bishops Manuel Fernández de Santa Cruz and Francisco Pablo Velázquez, as well as the incorporation of the libraries of the Jesuit schools, so that it currently has 45,049 volumes dating from the 15th century to the 19th centuries, and to a lesser extent, from the 20th century. This artifact that is seen here is in some way the predecessor of Google, believe it or not. On each of its sections, a different book was placed while reference was made to other books. In this way, different books could be consulted at the same time with the turn of a wheel. The library has only natural light, which enters through all the windows that are located in the upper part, and no, direct light does not damage the books, even if it has direct contact for hours, since the glass is a special glass to block the sun's rays that could damage them. The Zócalo de Puebla, as the main square of the city of Puebla, the Zaragoza, is informally known, was called the Main Garden, Central Park, and in 1919, Juárez Park. It is located in the heart of the area known as the historic center of the city, and is an important part of the historic area of monuments declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. Its location was chosen by the founders of the city in a place formerly called Cuetlaxcuapan, which means place where snakes shed their skin, to establish an intermediate city between Veracruz and Mexico. It functioned as a plaza or market for clothing and food from 1531 to 1854, when it was converted into Parque Central. In Puebla, the Turibus has 5 routes, while Turitour has 2. Whether you want to tour the city or go out to visit magic towns, this is one of the options. The Star of Puebla is a Ferris wheel or tourist observation wheel located in the city of Puebla de Los Angeles, next to the Angelopolis Shopping Center in the so-called Linear Park. The star was inaugurated on July 22nd, 2013, and received the Guinness Records for being the largest transportable observation wheel in Latin America. The Star of Puebla is a wheel of German manufacture. It is called transportable because it can be disassembled and placed elsewhere at any time. It has a height of about 80 meters, 74 meters in diameter, and 54 cabins with capacity for 6 or 8 passengers each. Its speed is 2 to 4 revolutions per hour, and not to mention the spectacular view from the highest point. You have to experience it yourself. The Linear Park combines a modern style and contact with nature. It is made up of 4 main attractions: the Garden of Art, La Estrella de Puebla, the Metropolitan Eco Park, and the Paseo del Río Atoyac. The route is about 4.5 kilometers and connects the Art Garden with the Comprehensive Service Center. It has an elevated walkway that crosses the Niño Poblano Boulevard, pedestrian walkways, a robotic fountain, different food areas, shaded benches, a jogging track, all over a total area of approximately 20 hectares. And one of the best parts of this whole trip, it's varied and delicious food. Chalupas, mole poblano, chiles en nogada, rompope, molotes, semitas, mole de caderas, tacos árabes, pipián enchiladas, poblano sweet potatoes, and endless delicious dishes that you cannot miss when you are here. Puebla's hotel offer is wide and varied. There are options for all tastes, needs, and budgets. Cuetlacuapan. Cuetlaxcuapan. Cuetlax. In a valley called Cuetlacuapan.